Good afternoon and welcome to episode 1 of Rob Explains, your daily podcast discussing and explaining cool, random, and interesting things. I am, of course, Rob. Thank you for joining me. I guess the best way to start out episode 1 is a little bit of an introduction. You may know me from the various projects that I have going on. The Oh the Anthem podcast. It's a weekly podcast available on Tuesdays at ohtheanthem.com and everywhere fine pods are casted. You may also know me from my Everyman Movie reviews, a bi-weekly movie review that's in podcast form as well as a YouTube channel. Or you may know me from the many parody videos that I've been doing over the last couple of months. Or maybe you just know me from normal life, or perhaps you don't know me at all. So in any event, I think it would be good to kind of start at the beginning and have a short intro episode here, just telling you a little bit about me and a little bit about the show. Well, let's start with the show. What can you expect over this daily 5-minute or less podcast? Well, as I said, we're going to be discussing and explaining cool, random, and interesting things. This is actually the 4th time I have kind of started and restarted the idea that is Rob Explains. For the first few intervals of Rob Explains, it was actually Rob Explains Everything. And you can see that in the title card if you check it out wherever it is you're listening or watching this particular show. And this idea started out of a place of wanting to take a very complex subject and try to break it down in the simplest terms so that everyone can understand. I love the quote from Albert Einstein that says, if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough. And I take that as a challenge. I think that I can explain nearly anything that I know to anyone, no matter how much knowledge or experience they have in the subject matter. And I wanted to share some of that knowledge and maybe even learn a few new things along the way and share them with everyone. But starting out with a YouTube show had some restrictions. It's a lot of production value starting up and editing a show. My very first version actually had interstitials with someone else stepping in and giving some side facts that didn't really fit the regular narrative. I tried that once, and then again about 2 years later, both on the same topic, and that's the Gunpowder, Treason, and Plot, Guy Fawkes, and November 5th. But 2 unsuccessful tries was enough, and I gave up on the YouTube exclusive show that would be Rob Explains Everything. More recently, I sat down and did a radio show version of that show, Rob Explains Everything, and I was talking about systematic racism and defunding the police. Again, I made the focus a YouTube show where I had some audio-visual aspects and kind of explained in depth a very complicated topic. But again, the restrictions of having so much production value were very, very difficult. And what I'm looking to do is to try to open up a dialogue with people and maybe explain or discuss some interesting and cool things, but not get necessarily down into the nitty-gritty without somebody bringing up and requesting it first. So here we are, take 4 of Rob Explains Everything. This time, of course, just Rob Explains. It's going to be a short daily podcast where we're going to find a topic of the day. I'll go into a little bit of detail. Maybe it's something you've heard about before. Maybe it's something you haven't ever heard of before. Maybe it's something you know of before, or maybe it's something you've never even heard of. Maybe it's something you know a lot about, or maybe just a little. Either way, I hope that coming out of every single episode, you'll know a little bit more about that subject matter. And that comes out of a personal challenge of mine. I was a little bit of a nerdy kid in school. I like to read, I like politics, and I like science. I was the guy who took electives in college in geology and astronomy. Not easy basket weaving or sports classes, because I wanted to try something out and learn something new. I made a challenge for myself a long time ago, sometime in my teens, that I wanted to be able to have a 5-minute conversation about anything. Then, in 2006, I was able to sit down at a table during the Clinton presidential conference at Hofstra University, where I was attending, and I had a conversation with a former UN weapons inspector in Iraq from the 1990s, and the former head of the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Administration. One was sitting to my left, the other to my right, and we were talking about proliferation of nuclear weapons in the Third World after the breakup of the Soviet Union. Then, I was announced as a 4th-year student at Hofstra, there to talk about the Clinton administration's foreign policy, and I gave my thoughts as a form of a presentation about Bosnia, Rwanda, and the early Clinton years of foreign policy. When I sat down, one of those guys leaned over and said, "We had no idea you were a student and that you weren't here to talk about atomic policy." That was a dream come true for me. I had been able to have a 5-minute conversation about a relatively niche topic with two experts and hold myself out as if I knew exactly what I was talking about. And the fact is, I did. So my hope is, coming out of each and every episode of Rob Explains, you'll be able to have a 5-minute conversation with anyone about the topic of the day and know exactly what it is you're talking about. Whether it's fodder for a water cooler conversation or just a conversation starter amongst friends, Rob Explains can be your source of some interesting and unique topics and a new encyclopedia of knowledge. Look for new episodes daily right here. Make sure that you subscribe. And of course, if you have subjects that you would like me to cover in these daily episodes, reach out. You can find me at rob@robexplains.com. Find Rob Explains on all your social networks, or just comment below and I'll be sure to review, and you can actually start a dialogue with me right there. I am looking forward to this project. I've made it a goal to make brand new content 7 days a week this fall, and with Rob Explains, you'll have something new to listen to every single day. Come along on this adventure with me. It's going to be fun. But until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Have a great day, everybody. Good afternoon, everyone. It is September 1st, and this is episode 1 of Rob Explains, your daily podcast discussing and explaining cool, random, and interesting things. Today's topic, colliding galaxies. And let me tell you why we're going to talk about that on episode 1. A few weeks ago on the Oh the Anthem podcast, the weekly podcast I do with my buddy Corey, you can find more information about that at ohtheanthem.com or at ohtheanthem on all your social media networks. We were discussing the Fujiwara effect as it pertains to Hurricane Marco and Hurricane Laura possibly meeting in the Gulf of Mexico. And I said I found some really cool animations of the Fujiwara effect. Now, I'm going to talk about that in a few episodes, so hold tight about the Fujiwara effect. But I said it reminded me of an animation I saw about colliding galaxies. And I had a couple of people ask me, what do you mean colliding galaxies? So I thought, let's lead off with an amazing astronomical galactic universal topic like colliding galaxies. Now, to kind of talk about this, we have to start at the very beginning, but I also want to kind of start close to home. When talking about colliding galaxies, we can talk about any number of randomly numbered galaxies that we've observed and them colliding. But what about our home galaxy? We, here on Earth, in the solar system, are on one of the spiral arms of the Milky Way galaxy. It's called the Milky Way because from our perspective, we can't really see the entire galaxy. We only see it from the edge, and all of that light pollution makes it look white, and ancient astronomers thought that it looked like a Milky River, so we called it the Milky Way. One of our closest galactic neighbors is the Andromeda Galaxy. Now, it wasn't always known as the Andromeda Galaxy. It used to be known as the Andromeda Nebula. That was because we, for a very long time, thought that there was only one galaxy. They thought everything was in the same galaxy and that the universe was very small. Edwin Hubble, whose name you may recognize from the Space Telescope, yes, that's named after him, after doing some observations, realized that there are objects in the sky that are shifted red and blue. What we can know from that is that objects that shift their light red are moving away from us, and objects that are shifting blue are moving towards us. Now, this isn't true when you're looking at a car traveling towards you. It's not nearly far enough away, and it's not moving nearly fast enough. But when objects are moving extremely fast and they're extremely far away, the red shift, blue shift tells us which direction they're moving. This was happening around the time that people were realizing that we are not alone in the universe. Now, I don't mean that by saying intelligent life. What I mean is there are more than one galaxy. We are all in one planet in one small part of a small galaxy. And there are billions and billions of galaxies with billions and billions of stars out there. One of those is the Andromeda Galaxy. Once we had some better observation equipment, we realized that this fuzzy mass that we were calling a nebula was actually another galaxy full of stars and moving towards us, or so Edwin Hubble said. Well, here's some sad news, folks. In about 3.6 billion years, the Andromeda Galaxy and the Milky Way Galaxy will begin tidally impacting each other, meaning their gravity will start impacting the other. And sometime after that, a little after 4 billion years, those two galaxies will actually collide. And that collision will look a lot like a dance. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see this animation of the two galaxies and the way that their gravities intertwine. The center of the galaxy for each spiral galaxy is a supermassive black hole. These are objects that have unbelievable mass and unbelievable gravity. So as they pass each other, they then begin this slow dance of circling and circling and circling. Inevitably, a few billion years or less after they first impact each other, those two supermassive black holes will collide themselves. And because Andromeda's is so much larger than our own, it's likely that theirs will swallow ours. And the two galaxies will become one galaxy, no longer spiral, more likely elliptical or in an elongated circle. But in the time in between that first tidal pull and the coalescing of a galaxy, we go through this infinite dance that looks so simple in an animation. But keep in mind what you're watching. Each point of light on that little graph is a star, just like our own. And each of those stars may have planets around them. And you'll see some during this gravitational dance get flung off into deep space. Others get pushed into the supermassive black hole, either the one of your own galaxy or another. And eventually that cloud coalesces into another fine shape. A lot of the hydrogen that's left over in gas form will actually start to move and shrink and form new stars, and it'll be an exciting period for new star formation. But what will happen to us kind of remains to be seen. We're in a relatively safe part of the Milky Way galaxy, being in the middle to outer edge of a spiral arm. And you may be asking yourself, why do spiral galaxies have spiral arms? Well, you might think that it's just like an octopus's arm, and that we are stuck in one of these arms and we go spinning around the center of the galaxy. But you'd be wrong. The funny thing is, the stars will always maintain their position around the galactic center. However, for reasons that are relatively unknown and haven't been studied well, as the galaxy turns, they actually just build up waves. So you can think of the galactic arms more as like a traffic jam than an octopus arm. At some point, our sun was at the leading edge of the galactic arm, to which we are now at the trailing edge. Just moving through, it got pushed as if it was almost a water wave, up over the top of the wave, and now we're falling down the backside of it. And if we were to allow a billion years of observation, we would rise up the next arm and down again. But this dance of going up and down the waves of arms as they pass by will not last forever, because as soon as we begin interacting with the Andromeda Galaxy, the life of spiral galaxies are over. There will be no more arms. For a while, the two supermassive black holes spinning around each other will form these tails, and those tails will then coalesce back into the center, forming the elliptical galaxy we spoke about earlier. But it will be a time of great upheaval. There is a chance that some solar system in the Andromeda Galaxy will pass very near our solar system. There's a chance that the gravitational forces will pull another star system from within our own galaxy closer to us and impact us. There is a chance that planets from either galaxy and any solar system will get flung out into deep space or be thrown our direction. And when our sun captures them, we could have a new ninth planet. Or they could impact us, and it could lead to the end of life on Earth. But lucky for all of us, again, that's a few billion years in the future. So I hope you've come out of this with a little better understanding of galaxies, what they look like, how they act, and what will happen when they collide. Next episode, we're going to talk about the Fujiwara effect, the thing that actually inspired this episode. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Have a great day.